Hey guys, welcome to the GG Bullion channel once again. Today I am trying out a new kind of format where I'm talking to different people I either know or have met through this stacking community in kind of shorter length talks and see how that goes. See if you guys like it. This will be the first one. So today I have on Colin, who I've known for quite a long time. I didn't really meet
Hello.
him through hi Colin. I haven't really met you through the stacking community. But you have been stacking for about 2+ years, correct?
Yeah, 2 years and a little bit of change.
Okay. Um, so yeah, nice to have you on.
Nice to be here. We did talk a little bit earlier about how you wanted to go, but I'll let you guide the direction that I go in.
Well, it was interesting because we were talking a little bit about FUD and people just not getting precious metals, like because it is such a small percentage of the population that stack silver or gold. And then, maybe later in this, depending on how long we go for, we can talk about kind of gold versus silver. But I think some of the stuff you were saying about, you try and talk to an average person about it that might be, if you were talking to them about mutual funds or stocks or even crypto, depending on the person, that you were saying like, yeah, and I've had the same experience where they're like, oh yeah, yeah, awesome. You start talking about silver and gold, and they just don't know what's happening, and then you don't know what's happening because how do you not get this, dude? So,
Yeah, it
uh,
ranges from not knowing what's going on to straight up, berating me for being stupid.
mm,
It kind of depends on the person, but I've noticed that in general, when I try to talk about um, stacking to people, and even just owning a little piece of
mm,
gold or a little bit of silver or something, most people dismiss it outright in one way or another, right?
yeah, which is something I've noticed as well, and I have got a lot of people that I know like IRL into stacking, or like people
Hmm.
I've worked with or whatever. But of all the people I talk to about it, um, the ones that there is the ones that actually do buy some, it seems like there's two types: people that know nothing about it and you kind of got to talk to them several times, they eventually
Yeah,
end up buying a little bit of silver and then it clicks, like they get it.
yeah,
um or, which I find much rarer, people that are already kind of interested in it but they haven't like pulled the trigger on it. uh
yeah.
but the
I'd
vast
say,
majority,
80% of them though, right, are just not interested at all
yeah,
for
I
whatever
would
reason.
I,
You have to convert them into that first type where they're really hesitant about it, right?
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would
Uh,
say more than 80%. I think it's just, and that's the thing, and I guess a lot of people in the stacking community, I've heard a lot of people on Reddit be like, "Oh, I don't care about that. Like, I'm just stacking for myself," which is good, but
yeah.
also like if we got, a couple more percent of the American population stacking just in the US,
Hmm.
that's going to benefit everybody's stack. It's like
Well,
I
it's
don't know.
just like the market, right? If you like the stock, you want to encourage people to buy the stock, and
Hmm.
especially with something that has universal value, like gold or silver. For me, particularly gold, is I don't see nearly as much of a downside as I do with something like crypto or a stock or anything like that, because that's beholden to all of the economic and social factors and like interpersonal communicational stuff
Hmm.
that gold and silver is not, outside of like just straight up being useful for doing things with.
Yeah.
um they have basically held, uh I don't want to say monetary, but they've held value in one way or another for the entirety of the human economic history, right?
Yeah.
There's something about them, whether it's, just the way things are in the human mind at this point, more of an instinctual thing, or, who knows, for whatever reason, instead of chocolate or cotton or animals, people settled on gold and silver and stuff, and it's basically the bet. And the reason that I like to invest in this stuff is because, to me, getting stocks and stuff still seems really risky because
Oh,
I'm betting on such a small piece of the human experience, right? One single company, their success basically. But when I invest in gold or silver, I'm betting on like uh, an entire economic system,
yeah.
right? And it
Yeah.
feels much less like a bet.
Yeah, it feels like oh, in 20 years, this is a sure thing. Like that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, exactly. And
Or-
to me, that's why it's so surprising that when I try to talk to people about it, one of the most common things that I'll get back is I'll bring up that I just bought, a little gold bar or some uh 5 ounce silver bars or something. And one of the most common things I'll get right after that is like, well, that gold is just a store of value, right? And like, yes.
Mhm.
Yes, I do. I understand that completely. It just, I don't understand why that's a negative that people bring up. And also, beyond that, it just doesn't seem like they even understand what they're saying. It's almost like a social response at this point,
Yeah.
um, because they're conditioned to say something like that because they know that that is on the side of the apparent disagreement that they are on, right? Um, I don't know
Yeah,
why anything being a store of value would be considered negative.
correct. And there's two things to that. Like number one, okay, so let me step back for a second because I was going to go into like, okay, yeah, dude, so that's why gold outpaced the S&P 500 last year by 27% because it's just a store of value. But
You know, as true as that may be, I feel like typically
it
that
is.
would be something I'd attribute more to like silver or something. Gold is typically, right? That's kind of an outlier, I would
Yeah.
imagine. I don't really know a lot about the history of the price, but
I
I would
mean,
imagine that it's not often that God, I think God outpaces the economy every year. Um, but it's not often that gold, outperforms the S&P.
yeah, I
So,
mean, I would have to look. I know since I started stacking, which would be like, I don't know, 9, 10 years ago. I mean, looking where the price has been then to where it is now, I'm sure it has certain years. I'd have to look into the micro, but that's neither here nor there. But
sure.
when people, it's almost like there's like a knee-jerk response, and in some of the podcast episodes I have done, I talked to like Lauren, who's a relatively new stacker, but it's
Mhm.
been stacking for about, I would say, a little less than you have time-wise, maybe.
Sure.
And I was kind of asking her because she's a little bit younger than us. Like how before because I kind of convinced her to look into it. It's like, before that, how did you perceive like silver and gold? And she
Yeah.
couldn't really articulate a reason. It was more like I just had this broad thought that it's kind of like an antiquated way of doing things. And I
Yes.
think that is kind of what a lot of people like they're not really having these discrete opinions on it. It's kind of just this, oh, that's like Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah,
That's
hoarding
not,
gold coins.
yeah, that's not
Yeah.
real life. Like it's
Yeah.
a
Oh,
weird.
maybe I'll just like grow wings and breathe fire, right? And share my big pile of gold. It's
No, it's so bizarre. Like I went on Reddit. This was like years ago, but it was like a r/polls where you could make polls about everything. It's like, oh, what would
yeah.
you rather have? Like 100,000 US dollars worth of silver gold or silver bars. And like there were so many people in the comments saying like, oh well, with silver bars, like there'd be so much paperwork you'd have to. It's like, what are you talking? Like, where's this coming
Yeah.
from? Well,
I
it's
I
literally
had
a
to do
physical thing.
paperwork to get millions of dollars.
Like
Oh,
it's
deal
well,
breaker.
well, not even that. It's like let's just say you just it appears in your house one day, or even let's
Sure.
or you buy it, from a private party. Like it's like the
Sure.
least amount of paperwork, least amount of red tape thing possible to jump through
Possible.
in that
Yeah.
sphere. And like I don't know if people are just conditioned that like, oh, anything financial has to go through, and maybe it's because precious metals, physical precious metals, don't have a counterparty risk. That
What is
people are
that?
like there's no third party institution that you have to go through. It's just a physical
Sure.
thing you have.
Right, right, right.
And
Yes.
maybe people are so conditioned that's like, well, my mutual funds have to go through this BS and then I got to get taxed and what they just assume that I don't know, they just assume everything is like that.
Well, and that's kind of what I was getting at with like saying that maybe this is like a conditioned social response at this point, right? Because the idea nowadays, and I guess for a long time, has been like stick with the progress almost.
Mhm.
Um, and I understand how people could get a little lost in the sauce about like a physical medium, but at the same time, it feels like a greater a greater resentment than something like buying old Nintendo games or records or something,
Mhm.
right? So I totally understand what you're saying with like it is an antiquated way of doing things. But I think people, at the end of the day, my theory at this point, my running theory,
Mhm.
is that people are afraid to, at some point, figure out how to exchange it. It's not, they
Yeah.
can't walk into a store or drive through McDonald's and spend it.
They don't
And
want.
so they don't, yeah, they don't
Yeah.
know what to do with it.
Which, it's very strange because on the one hand, I understand that, but on the other hand, it's like I'm assuming at most locations you can't go to McDonald's or Walmart and buy your stuff with Dogecoin. I don't think you
Correct.
can go be like, hey, I have 400 shares in Tesla. I'd like to buy this TV. Like,
Yeah.
and like every other investment vehicle is like the same thing, aside from like fiat currency. Like
Right.
that's where I get hung up as to like why don't they understand? Which I get it. I think it is because it's like a physical thing you're actually holding in your hand. So instead of thinking, oh, this is some weird thing in like a different like in the M3 money supply, some weird vehicle that I'm just
Yeah.
getting magic dollars out of from the
Yeah.
internets. It's
That's
like
like that
it,
economic theory that's getting more popular nowadays about how basically the economy isn't even real and none of the money's been real for decades. And like it's all just made up on a computer, which is, to be honest, a little bit scarily true.
yeah, I was gonna say like that.
Modern monetary theory, I think it's
Oh my,
called.
yeah, MMT. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know about MMT. It's oh my God. I don't want to get, let me finish my thought real quick.
Sure, sure.
I
Sorry.
I think because it's like if they had, a 5 gram gold bar in their hand, or let's make it whether it's a bar or whether it's like a quarter-ounce gold coin or a 1 ounce silver coin, whatever it may be, because it's a physical money that they have in their hand, they think, oh, what's the other physical money? Oh, the US dollar that I have banknotes that I can just spend. So why can't I spend this? This must be a scam. I think that's probably the thought process.
So to me, that inherently feels so shallow. Like it's just taking it at face value, quite literally,
Yeah,
right? Um, I don't even know if there's a pun intended there, but like, I don't, why can't they make the one step jump to assume that if they wanted to spend it, it's worth fiat currency?
I don't.
And nowadays, that's most likely how it was like acquired, you know?
Yeah, before fiat currency, like I mean, even not too long ago, within living memory, like with my parents or whatever, when they were,
Sure.
little kids, our coins were made out of 90% silver. Like
Yeah. Oh
I,
man, I got a whole jar of them.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
don't know,
They
like
still go around. They
you
still
know
go
what,
around.
yeah, you know what I think it is, why as to why they can't make that jump is because I feel like especially in the like maybe under 35 years old-ish demographic. And
Yeah.
even with other age brackets too, but that the fact that everything is now done digitally, like the malls are all closed down, like people just go on
Right.
Amazon. Most of the time, a lot of people don't even like, especially the younger crowd, like never have cash on them. Like nothing is physical, it's all digital.
Right.
So
Right.
that's something that is like breaking like their world, like financial worldview, where it's like, oh, shouldn't this all just be on a computer? This is weird.
Right. Like, how do I Venmo this? Or like, yeah, they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah,
Um, and like honestly, it is just as easy as trading it for
yeah,
fiat currency. You can do it yourself. You can, get it verified or whatever and sell it like that in a little case. You can take it to the freaking pawn shop. You can take it to a gold place. I mean,
yeah. And like
it's not that difficult, which
any
is what
like
always bothered me.
yeah, and like it's literally like a one Google search away. Like, how do I
Yes.
sell gold coins? And like Google's AI is going to tell you immediately because that's how
Well, and
Google works now. And
that's
then
why it's so frustrating because people will give other ideas a thought, like crypto or something.
Mhm.
They'll give it tons of credence and grace and carry so much water for it. But then this something that's even because all that stuff is just literally, well, I mean, you know this, it's completely reliant on the fiat currency
Yeah,
to even have any value. Like that's what it's valued in. And
yeah,
gold and silver and platinum and all that stuff, really anything with numismatic value, but you know what I mean. The barter system is inherently valuable, and gold, particularly gold and silver and platinum and stuff, are valuable intrinsically.
Yeah, yeah,
So
like especially silver and platinum, gold also to some extent, although gold is mostly monetary, but like silver, literally the servers that they're mining crypto on have like silver and gold in them. Like
yeah,
uh, you need it to make smartphones. Like whatever you're listening to this on has silver and gold in it. Like, come on,
and
dude.
granted, it's not a ton, but it's it's still used as an industrial material
Oh yeah, it's
until we find a better conductor.
yeah,
Um,
it's
so the other thing I want to talk about real quick
mm,
is so if people, if they get at me about uh, it's just being a store of value, I don't feel like that's a bad thing. The other thing that they'll say to me is something like, well, I mean, you can never really know what silver is going to cost one day to the other. And okay, so here's where I'm at with it. You can tell me if I'm on the right path or not, because
okay,
I haven't really done much reading about metal. I haven't, done a whole lot of discussion about it really at
okay.
all. Um, but to me, it feels like silver is realistically consistent if I'm at least comparing it to stocks and stuff. um like it stays within a range, right? It's a relatively predictable range. Like it's
Mm,
not going to zero for
yeah,
sure.
correct.
And
It's not
you
even
know
going at 10 for sure. Like
well, that's what
the
I'm
metal.
saying. It
Yeah.
stays. It's so in a way it's still a store of value, but silver's what I use for like kind of playing around with. I'll buy it and I sell it and I buy it
Mm,
and I sell it and stuff.
yeah.
But
And,
for me it's always been gold as like the stack, right?
okay.
But silver's kind of like what I play with. So last year I think I made like $200, you know,
Mhm.
all in all. But yeah, it's pretty good. And I don't know, I don't know.
Are
So
you
it's kind
talking
of fun,
about
and I
are you talking about
buying and selling silver.
buying and selling? Okay, so like flipping
Yeah, and I
coins and
do,
stuff.
yeah, and I do use some of the profit to buy like a fun numismatic value things because I'm
Mm,
trying to get more of those like fun coins
yeah,
and stuff like that. So, um, but yeah, I don't see silver as a big gamble. I really don't.
I
Uh,
don't either.
it's
Uh,
always a gamble to bank on people.
yeah.
So a company is just full of people.
Mm,
Uh, there's absolutely nothing saying that Apple doesn't, distribute illegal content or bomb threats throughout their whole network tomorrow.
yeah.
And but granted, that's not going to happen. But as
It'd be
as an
funny if it
example,
did though.
yeah, because I don't hold any Apple.
Correct.
But yeah, why? What is it about? If you talk to them about getting an IRA or something like a Roth IRA, they'll tell you it's a good investment choice for your future. But then if you talk to them about buying gold and silver, they'll tell you silver's too much of a gamble and gold isn't going to make you enough money.
Dude, I don't know. I think it's really weird because I feel like like intuitively like it should be the opposite. Like, oh, these two metals, specifically silver and gold, platinum we couldn't really refine till the mid 19th century, but that
Yeah.
too now. But silver and gold, those have been steady, good money that's held its value through like if you look at I think I have a graph that I can throw up, a logarithmic chart of the value in Deutsche Marks in Weimar, Germany. And it's like, yeah, gold and silver like held their value, gold especially. Um, through like since the dawn of agriculture, if not before that.
Right.
Like you would think,
Right.
okay, this is literally the most stable money or investment there is. But people like that's kind of what I intuit. And that seems
Okay.
to be
So
true, but people seem to disregard it out of hand. And I think I don't know. Because I started stacking in it because of, my age. I didn't get a chance to stack before the internet was a thing.
sure.
Maybe it was people thought about it different, but I feel like since so much is done digitally, like if it's not, I don't know, it's very bizarre. It's almost because when you're stacking silver or gold or platinum, you're effectively like, the be your own bank thing, which I think is a
Hmm.
good slogan. That's effectively what you're doing. You are holding your money yourself
Hmm.
and
Quite
doing,
literally.
yes, and doing whatever. I feel like people, if they don't have a middleman, whether it's an actual broker or whether it's like Coinbase or something, like some kind of exchange, or if it's not the stock market, if there's no middleman, they like
Yeah.
maybe they don't trust themselves enough or don't understand it enough to like
That's a very interesting insight, actually.
yeah, I
Because I've met a lot of people in my life that, when I try to talk to them about stocks or something, or even just basic stuff, they'll
mm,
say like, "Oh, I don't know anything about stocks. Everything I've been ever invested was through like a 401k with my job or a stockbroker."
yeah,
Right? They won't even really have a discussion about them.
yeah, it's just being managed for them.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I mean, I think that really does like hit to the heart of why people are scared to take accountability for
Yeah.
their finances or their actions, and it might just be uh, like a cooked in, built in part of the human experience that you have to overcome, having someone handle something for you
Mhm.
and, take something on. Because it is difficult to like take anything on all the way for yourself and follow it all the way through. And like your finances are one of the most prevalent, relevant things in everyday life,
Yeah.
right? But to me, it's not been scary or anything. It's been somewhat freeing.
Oh yeah.
Um, and granted, the price of everything I bought has gone up like
Mhm.
nicely, and
Yeah.
it won't be like that forever. But I know that it's not going to just completely take a dive, and
Yeah.
that's why it provides comfort more than
Yeah.
it makes me worry about anything, right? So I hope that enough people realize eventually that taking control of stuff like that is good. It's good for you, and it opens up possibilities down the road if something bad does happen. God forbid, but like if something bad does happen, you have a store of value, quite a nest egg, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's something that I think about like when we're talking about this, like if I based on the current state of the economy and how things have been, especially since the coof and the shutdowns happened,
yeah, yeah,
um dude, like if I did not have my stack, like I would be freaking out about my money like all the time because I'm not a rich guy by any means, and I'm going back to
sure.
school and all of that stuff. And it's like, if I had to just rely on the dollars that I have and the little bit of crypto I have, unless I had some money in stocks, like I would not be sleeping well at
Yeah,
night about finances. I'm already stressed about finances enough with
on a daily
having
basis, right?
stack put away. And I
Yeah,
I think
I
like
totally get it.
and like I think like you said, like it is very like freeing to have this like, okay, I have this completely within my control.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, the price may fluctuate, but uh, in the long term, if you look in the past 5,000 years, like it's going to hold value. Um,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not going to just crash and go to nothing.
right,
It's not going to go down like, like the stock market could completely crash and go pretty low
right,
and screw a lot of people out of their 401ks and whatnot.
right,
Then
exactly.
it's just having this stuff, especially silver with its industrial uses. It's used in like everything, pretty much
Yeah,
everything electronic, or it's also used in welding and solar panels and a million other things. Just having that, and yeah, I don't know. I
it's worth
maybe
something to humanity, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. No, yeah, yeah. It's like an actual like what is having like at the end of the day, like what does Bitcoin do? Oh, it's a speculation to get dollars, essentially.
Yeah, or you can trade it for other crypto, which you
Y-
can then trade for drugs.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. That's
So,
yeah, yeah. And then eventually the government comes and confiscates it. Like,
sure, right, exactly.
yeah, it's I don't know, man.
They
Um,
can pry my little gold bars out of my cold, dead fingernails.
yeah, seriously. Like it's so easy to, physically hide the stuff too.
And move it,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. It's not
before
like
at the
crazy.
risk of getting into a whole nother conversation,
Yeah.
like the ability to spend it anywhere should not be underestimated because in any sort of crazy situation, which is not really what I'm trying to account for,
Mhm.
but anyway, as an added bonus, like it's going to be useful everywhere, right? You can always make some sort of deal, and yeah, it is the human currency, I
Mhm.
believe, at least.
Yeah, I mean it historically that makes sense. I mean, really the past what years? The past like 110-ish years have been the outlier in human history as far as not using
Sure,
that as like the standard currency,
sure.
or even
Makes sense.
less than that in some cases.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I
Uh,
mean, if you think about it, we were still on the gold standard into the 20th century, right?
yes.
Like
Uh,
30s?
we were on the gold standard through Nixon.
Oh, okay. I thought did they get rid of gold first and then get rid of silver?
So under FDR, there was well, there's the Federal Reserve, and then so our coins were still 90% silver. They wanted to kind of crack down on private gold ownership, which is what
Oh,
most of what is supposedly in Fort Knox is like melted down, turned in gold coin.
yeah.
It's a whole um,
Sounds like a racket.
yeah, yeah. It's and then the after everybody that did turn in their gold coins or whatever did that, then they jacked up the price of gold like
Yeah,
immediately afterwards. Like of course.
that's
And there was
classic.
also
It's a good rug pull, but
yeah,
reverse rug pull.
and there was a lesser known silver confiscation thing too under FDR. And then as we go on, they got rid of silver certificates and put in Federal Reserve notes. And then
Yeah,
after or right at the end of World War II, we went to the Bretton Woods system where the US dollar was pegged to gold, and then like every other currency was pegged to the US dollar. Um,
yeah,
and they would trade gold to try and keep it at like the pretty much the same price. Uh,
sure.
and then long story short, because I could go on about this, I'd have to look up some specific dates. But
That's why I started with at the risk of starting a whole
yeah,
nother
but
conversation.
under Nixon, basically the gold standard was quote unquote temporarily suspended to basically to avoid speculators doing whatever. It's it's
That
been
just
a
means we have to perform an incantation and resurrect it.
Mhm.
It's in suspended animation floating out there.
Yeah.
Um, all right, man. Hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I
It was
think this has
fun.
been a decent conversation. Anybody still listening, put down in the comments if you liked this. It's just going to be casual conversations with people I know. People talk to me on Twitter. It's at GG, I think underscore Bullion on Twitter. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
I think
I'll put it on screen. If you want to be on one of these casual conversation, I don't know what I'm naming these yet. Just hit me up. Anybody in the YouTube comments, in the comments, let me know what other topics you would like me to cover and whether you liked this format at all. Because this should help me get out more vids. And I think it'd be cool just to have like a casual conversation with people that's about, roughly a half hour long or something from time to time. So yeah, like
cool.
and subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. And yeah, Colin, thanks for being on. If you ever want to be on again, just let me know.
Sounds good. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Have a good night, everyone.
All right, have a good one, guys. And
See
remember
ya.
to like, subscribe, and smash that bell or whatever. Salome.